The lighting in our kitchen leaves something to be desired. So in this video, we're going to go ahead and fix that. In order to operate the lights on the first floor of our house, guests need to decipher the secret code to operate this keypad. Somehow managing not to put the stud finder up against me and smiling at my wife, I located the studs in the wall. Fortunately, I'll be able to run the wire in the same wall cavity, so I won't have to drill through any studs. I removed the wall plate and the 2 light switches that are operating the 3 lights. There will be 4 sets of lights operated from this location. I get a 4-gang old work box. Because this is such a wide box, I make sure that the hole I cut will be level to the floor. On the other side of the same wall, in the same wall cavity, I cut the hole for the outlet. This last piece of drywall falls into the dark abyss, never to be seen again. I feed a wire in from the new outlet down to the switch. I did this before I put the box in the opening so I could easily reach into the wall cavity and retrieve the wire. If you're not familiar, old work electrical boxes have little tabs that when you screw them in, they swing open and catch onto the drywall. I simply wire up the new outlet. Before I disconnect power, I use a tick tester to check for voltage in the lines. I'm turning on and off the light switches. I'm testing for which wires always have electric running through them, or my lines, and the black wires that only turn on when I turn the light switch on, which are the load wires. I marked each black wire with labeled tape so I could keep track of which wires were which. I was having so much fun testing this out running back and forth to my panel that I forgot to turn on my camera for the majority of the wiring. So here you go, the finished product. The kit that I bought on Amazon, which is linked below, comes with a plug and adapter, a wireless receiver for the remote, and about 40 feet of LED strip. Because I want lights on the top and bottom of the upper cabinets, I need to put a split in the wire. These lights can have their temperature adjusted so there are 4 wires instead of the 2 that you may see on other kits that only control brightness. You'll cut the strips in a number of different locations. Just pay attention to which color you match up to so that the wire is running to the same code on each strip. This splitter will provide power to the upper and lower cabinets. I need to extend the length of the one wire to reach the bottom of the upper cabinets. I strip each of the 4 wires and apply some shrink tubing around each wire. I then use one larger heat tube to be able to pull all the wires and hold them together. This will give it just a little more finished look underneath the cabinets. The second wire will supply the LEDs on the top of the cabinets, so I simply hook that up using a connector. I feed the extended wire down in between the cabinets. I lay out the LED strip to determine the length of each section for the cabinets, and then cut them to length. I repeat the process for the upper and lower portion of this cabinet by itself. We'll get to this later on how I get power to that cabinet. These LEDs have an adhesive back, so I wipe the cabinets anywhere where I'm going to apply the tape. I pull the backing off the strip and firmly press the LED up against the cabinet. I keep this as close to the front edge of the cabinet as possible. These shouldn't be bothered much, and gravity is really helping me here, so I don't add any additional fasteners and just use the adhesive. For the moment of truth, and I hate it. Because there was a ledge on the front edge of the cabinets, it left a really defined line on the ceiling. When it was all said and done, I ended up moving the LEDs about 2/3 of the way back on the cabinets. This gave a lot softer glow on the ceiling and a much less defined line. I didn't want the LEDs to hang low and be visible, so I drilled holes through the bottoms of the cabinets to run the wires through. These little adhesive clips pinned the wire that was going from the upper cabinet to the lower behind the little lip of the cabinet so it was out of sight. Did you ever see those people that play the piano upside down? I kept the under cabinet lights pretty close to the front edge. This would shield seeing the actual strip and prevent shadows from being cast directly over items on the countertop. The adhesive backing worked pretty well, but I added these clips on the center of each cabinet. It's fine, it's fine. No one's going to see it. It's fine. I used a small flathead to gently lift up on these tabs. This allowed the LED strip to slide in a whole lot easier. To reach the solo cabinet by itself on the right hand side of the sink, I added another splitter, but I wanted the splitter to be on the underside of the cabinet, so instead of using a cable, I used this T. This allowed me to hide it up underneath the cabinet. I used a long flexible drill bit to guide the wire on the back corner of the cabinet. I fed the line through the top hole, and I used the bottom hole to pull the wire back through. I'm going to be installing a backsplash, so I'm not too worried about the appearance of the drywall right now. I was extra careful next to the outlet to make sure I didn't punch my drywall saw too far into the drywall for the wire that I assumed was back there. I tucked the wire in a little gap behind the granite, and I repeated the process on the drywall to the right. I used a drywall knife to gently push the wire all the way through the drywall. Some of the connections on the strips didn't quite line up with the tabs, so for some I carefully trimmed just a little sliver off of each side to be able to get the tabs to line up better. Because you can adjust the temperature of the light, there are two diodes beside each other along the whole strip. The coolest or whitest temperature only activates the white diode, and then it blends the two together all the way over to the yellow diode for the warmest temperature. To conceal this last wire, I drilled holes on the front edge of the cabinet and ran the wire up behind the front lip. This is a hot glue gun that's used for hardwood flooring. I dialed it down to the coolest temperature to not damage the wire, and applied a small amount of glue up the cabinet. This really held the wire in place, so I decided to try it on the underside as well instead of those clips. I think this is actually a pretty good option. I'm not sure if I would use it the whole time, but I think it worked here. So that's a wrap on this project. The lights really make the kitchen feel a whole lot brighter and a lot more modern. The kit that I purchased comes with this remote, and it allows you to change the brightness of the lights as well as the color temperature from cool to warm. Really, I don't plan on using this remote often unless I want to just tweak the temperature of the lights, but I just have this with some double-sided Velcro that I have stuck to the side of the fridge so we don't lose it, but it's out of the way. So all of the controls for these lights will be handled with the wall switch, and that's really just because that's what people are used to. So when we have guests over, I don't want them fumbling around looking for this remote to try and turn on and off the lights. So I'll link all the products that I used in the video description below. So this is part one of a two-part series for this kitchen. Part one will be the cabinet lighting, and part two I'm going to do the backsplash. And that's why I didn't really worry too much about the cuts that I put in the drywall, because I'm ultimately going to cover those up with tile. So this is the part where I shamelessly ask, if you found any value in this video, please hit that like and subscribe button and check out more videos in the future.